Look at you, thinking you can pull me over. You don't even deserve that badge. I run this road, officer. I'm a judge, and I decide who goes where. If you joke with me, I'll make sure you spend the night in jail. You hear me?
Early Thursday in February 2021. A peaceful morning like any other morning on the Lakeside Road under a clear sky. Wayne J. Morris, a black police officer, had been patrolling Highway 89 for about 3 hours. Throughout 6 years in the profession, his record was clean. No complaints, no discipline, no scandals. He came because of a mission to protect order, protect the people, with responsibility and fairness. Around 11:30, his radar beeped. A white van zoomed past the front of his patrol car at 78 miles per hour on a road limited to 55. That road was winding, bordered by the lake and pine forests, where many families stopped to admire the scenery, walk with their children, a stretch where accidents could happen at any moment if the driver lacked caution. Wayne turned on his siren, gave a warning, and followed the van. But instead of stopping immediately, the vehicle continued for nearly half a mile before pulling onto the shoulder, an unusual sign. In his mind, he felt a spark of intuition. Something's wrong. He radioed dispatch, reported the license plate and stop location, by the book. The morning sun reflected on the thin layer of dew on the pine needles, making everything look sharp, like a painting. Wayne stepped out of the patrol car, his body camera automatically recording. The van window rolled down, revealing a man with thinning blonde hair, reddish skin, around 50 to 60 years old, wearing a simple white shirt. Wayne leaned slightly, keeping a safe distance, looking straight into the driver's eyes. The standard action he always took during a stop. He said the radar had clocked 78 miles per hour and requested the driver's license and registration. But that courteous greeting vanished the moment the driver looked at him from head to toe, his eyes shifting from annoyed to something deeper, colder. His mouth curled into a smirk, one mixed with contempt and mockery. The man said, "You don't deserve to wear that badge. I control this road. I'm a judge." And then the shocking words came. He declared he had the authority to decide who went where, who got arrested, as if he were above the law. Wayne, standing in front of the window, stayed silent, trying to keep his voice steady and calm. He repeated, "I stopped you for speeding. No one, no matter who they are, badge or blade, stands above the law." He requested the documents again. The judge laughed, that sound carrying pure disdain, then raised his middle finger directly at the camera. The large black watch on his wrist was clearly visible, as if saying, "Look at the power I have." In his other hand, he waved his phone like a warning. "I own this road." Wayne didn't waver. The camera recorded every word, every gesture. But inside, he knew. If he reacted too strongly, the man, with influence and connections, could come back to cause trouble for him. He chose to stay silent, follow protocol, work with evidence. After a few tense minutes, the judge threw his driver's license to the ground, then closed the door and drove off. As he pulled away, he kicked up gravel, the sound of his tires whipping the dirt, like a declaration, "My power, I fear no consequences." Wayne returned to his patrol car, sat down, and sighed. He backed up the video. He wrote the report. Speeding violation, correct, but more importantly, hostile attitude, discriminatory language, threats, resistance. He knew he had just touched something far bigger than a traffic ticket. Why this story is not just one of countless traffic stops, but a wake-up call. When power is not kept in check, corruption is easy to grow. That man no longer saw himself as someone who protected the law. He saw himself as the law. He believed his badge and title placed him above everyone else, above justice, above dignity. That is the sign of corrupted arrogance, and very dangerous. The body camera, the officer's camera, is truly a shield for justice. Without it, if only relying on words, who could guarantee that the court sessions behind the scenes, the people who once stood before him, would be treated fairly? The camera brings transparency. People cannot deny what they said, what they did. Silence and endurance are not necessarily virtues. Justice cannot be built on fear. Wayne could have stepped back, yielded to pressure, to the man's power, but he chose differently. He followed the rules, upheld fairness, and let the law and conscience speak. That was courage, not through force, but through evidence and steadfastness. This is a strong reminder. No matter who you are, judge, officer, or ordinary citizen, no one stands above the law. Power does not come with immunity. Dignity is not something to show off. It is something to protect with justice, transparency, and responsibility. This story, if true, is not just a shocking incident that ends quickly. It exposes a serious issue. When the legal system lacks strong oversight, power easily falls into the hands of the arrogant, the prejudiced, the corrupted. It's easy to understand why many people once avoided crossing paths with him, fearing harsh sentences, bias, and the invisible power behind the judge's robe. Many trials, rulings, and sentences could have been shifted by prejudice, not just of one person, but of an entire system. And without evidence, video, audio, witnesses, exposing the truth becomes nearly impossible. Therefore, the demand for transparency, independent oversight, protection of defendants' rights, and citizens' rights is not secondary. It is the foundation of a fair society. When the body camera footage from Wayne Morris was submitted, no one expected it to spread so far. At first, it was just standard procedure. Any stop involving threats or hostility must be reviewed. But only hours later, those watching the footage froze, rewound, replayed, unable to believe their eyes. A judge, the symbol of justice, behaving with insults, discrimination, even threatening to jail an officer doing his job. Then what was meant to happen did happen. Judge Louis Dake immediately called Wayne's superiors. He tried to frame the story that Wayne was rude, discriminatory, intentionally harassing him. This was the tactic people in power had used for years, using their title to crush those beneath them. But this time, everything was different. Evidence does not lie. The camera captured the stop, the mocking laughter, the middle finger, the poisonous words he thought no one would hear. That video was a mirror reflecting the whole truth, leaving no escape. The supervisors who watched the footage were silent for several seconds. They realized that a small roadside incident revealed a much bigger problem, a judge showing signs of racism and abuse of power, even outside the courtroom. And if that was his true nature, what about the thousands of rulings he had issued? When the media got the leak, the story spread like wildfire. The whole city erupted. Articles, talk shows, lawyers, experts all spoke out. But the most painful part wasn't the video. It was what happened when people began re-examining his past. They discovered black defendants with the same charges received harsher sentences than white defendants. White parole violators were warned, while black violators were sent straight back to prison. One young lawyer said the judge once asked him in open court, "Are you really qualified to stand here?" All these things used to be rumors, vague stories whispered around, but no one dared to confront him directly, because who would challenge a judge with 30 years on the bench? But now, the mask had fallen. And once the truth was exposed, those who once feared him stepped forward to testify. The Judicial Conduct Committee opened a 3-month investigation. Old cases were reviewed, courtroom staff interviewed. The findings were published in a report nearly 90 pages long. The conclusion was clear. He did not deserve to be the one holding the scales of justice. When the suspension notice was issued, the courtroom, the place where he had stood for 30 years, fell silent. No one defended him. No colleague spoke up. Because everyone knew this was not a single mistake. It was the consequence of years of accumulated behavior, just waiting for a spark to collapse. And that spark was a camera strapped to the chest of a young police officer. He lost authority, position, salary, pension. Later, his law license was revoked, meaning he could never return to the profession. His entire career ended because of a few minutes of uncontrolled arrogance on the road. When the story broke, many people worried for Wayne, afraid he would be retaliated against, scrutinized. But instead, he received a commendation from the police chief. He humbly said, "I just did my job. I was trained that way. The camera protected me, and I'm grateful for that." Wayne's composure became the most beautiful image of the policing profession. No yelling, no proving, no competing. Just doing the right thing and letting the truth speak for itself. Later, the video became training material for many police departments and law schools, a lesson in conflict handling, self-control, and avoiding provocation. 5. Lessons for everyone. No one stands above the law. This story sends all of us, those who have lived through many changes, a clear message. 1. No one is immune to the consequences of their actions, whether judge, official, worker, or business person. One rash moment can destroy years of work. 2. Discrimination, whether in words, looks, or attitude, will eventually show people can hide it, but the camera cannot. 3. Self-respect and calmness are the greatest shields. Wayne prevailed not through force, but through doing every step correctly. 4. A civilized society requires transparency. Only with transparency can the powerless be protected. Cameras, recordings, evidence are weapons against abuse. 5. Power is a gift, and also a trap. If used to serve ego, it will consume the one who holds it. In the end, a story to remember for life. That morning, if Judge Dake had simply handed over his documents, accepted the ticket, and driven away, he would have lost only $320. But because of arrogance and prejudice, he lost everything. And the irony is, everything he lost began with him looking down on a young officer just doing his job. This story reminds us that sometimes life only needs a few minutes to reveal who we truly are, and whoever can hold themselves together, that person is truly strong. And don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so whenever a new story comes, meaningful, gentle, yet deep stories, you will be the first to receive them. See you in the next videos. Wishing all of you much health, peace, and joy in life.